Hi everyone. This lesson is on Chapter 7, Negative Messages. We also call them bad news messages. As with positive neutral messages, make sure you select the appropriate medium for your message, such as face-to-face, letter, memo, and so on. This requires knowing your audience. Negative messages are particularly challenging because of the impact they can have on the audience. Understand that your main purpose is to say no without actually saying no. Your goals are to be clear and thorough, to present a professional image, to show empathy and sensitivity, to be fair, and to maintain goodwill. Really, your main goal is to convey the bad news, to get your audience to accept it, even if they don't like it. To do this, you must understand how your audience will react. Colleagues, subordinates, customers, and other outside readers will be hurt to some degree. Upset, angry, potentially even hostile. While higher-ups, such as your boss's boss, and up the chain, view it as business. While potentially upsetting to them, it is just business. By analyzing your audience, you can determine the appropriate organizational strategy, either direct, we talked about this in Chapter 6, or indirect. For the readers who are above you, choose a direct strategy. For the majority of your audience, peers, subordinates, outside readers, use the indirect strategy. Take a look at Figure 7.1 in your textbook. Comparing the direct and indirect strategies for negative messages. If the message isn't too damaging, even to coworkers, colleagues, even subordinates, if it's just minor annoyance, the direct strategy might be appropriate. For example, the cafeteria has discovered they're out of meatloaf. They'll send a message, "Hey, we're out of meatloaf." It'll be direct. No big deal, right? Nobody's going to be hurt by that. I mean, really, have you tried the meatloaf in the cafeteria? Okay. But if the message will personally upset the reader, cause them to become hostile, or is really unexpected, use the indirect strategy. For example, if you applied for and were approved for vacation 6 months ago, and your vacation is next week, and your boss has to tell you, "Hey, your vacation's canceled," how will you react? Will you be happy with that? Probably not. So think about that, and think about the strategy that would work best, right? For most cases, the indirect strategy is the way that we're going to go. So, what's the indirect strategy? It allows for you to deliver your message with empathy, with sensitivity, hopefully allowing the audience to gain acceptance for the message, right? So here are the 4 parts. The buffer. You can start with a compliment or with positive news as long as it does not imply a yes answer. You can show appreciation. Even a thank you could work. Do not apologize in the buffer though, even though it suggests this is appropriate. Putting an apology here suggests that perhaps you, the writer, are at fault. And if you are, then you're not writing a bad news message, you're writing a positive message. Follow with reasons, the explanation. If you feel the need to apologize for how they may feel inconvenienced. You could perhaps start the reasons section with that apology. That would then naturally lead into your explanation, your details. Use positive or neutral language here. No negative words. Don't just hide behind company policy. Don't simply say company policy forbids. You have to say what the policy is and give a brief reason for why. Then comes the main point, the bad news itself. This is actually embedded into the paragraph with the reasons. It doesn't stand alone. Here's the one case where using passive voice might be appropriate when delivering the bad news. For example, John is dog sitting for a friend. John gives the dog some water. Well, he thinks it's water. There are 2 bottles, clear liquid, both unlabeled. One's water, one's poison. John doesn't know which one is which, and accidentally gives the poison to the dog. Do we blame John? No. So instead of saying, John killed the dog, which is active voice, we might simply say, the dog was accidentally killed. Implied would be by John, but we're not saying that because we don't want to blame John. We'll blame the owner of the dog. Okay? Follow this with your compromise or alternative. So in this paragraph, you're going to have the explanation, which leads into the statement of the bad news using positive or neutral language, followed by an appropriate compromise. On the other hand, we can do this for you. Then transition into your closing paragraph. And your closing paragraph needs to be off topic. It needs to look to the future, to a happy future. It should not remind the reader of the bad news. Don't apologize. Don't apologize again. Here you can perhaps tell the reader how to act to take advantage of the compromise or the alternative. and don't allow the reader to continue the conversation. You've said no, let your no be no. Don't write, if you have further questions, please don't hesitate to call me. They'll call, but you've already said no, so why should they call you? Okay? That's the basics. It's more complicated than the positive message because of the impact on the audience. But following these guidelines will help your message succeed, and even though the audience will be unhappy, they will at least understand. With this general strategy, you will be successful. Now, let's look at how to create a negative message refusing a request. If you aren't already there, go back into Blackboard and go to Learning Module 3, Week 4, scroll down to the Chapter 7 lecture notes. You can view the Constructing a Negative Message PowerPoint on your own time, but we'll look at it here. Creating an effective negative message using the indirect pattern of organization. First, make sure to format it correctly. This example is a letter. Again, never address a letter, dear sir, or dear madam, or to whom it may concern. Address it to the reader, dear, whatever the reader's last name is. If you have to do some research to find out who the reader is, do that. Typically, you're responding to somebody else's message, so you know who that person is. Then, start with a buffer. It should be neutral, not indicating a yes or no response. It should also be brief and related to the topic, a couple of sentences. It should begin typically impersonally with third person or perhaps with you viewpoint. In this case, the work Help Your Neighbor is doing to support the community is commendable. Remember, the reader is the representative for Help Your Neighbor. Thank you for considering St. Bernard Home and Garden as a sponsor for your annual Help Out Day fundraiser. This message is a reply to a request to be a sponsor, that is, to give money. Your goal in this message is going to be to say no to that request. Now, the buffer doesn't say no, and it doesn't say yes, right? That's the idea. Then add appropriate explanation and details, including, if appropriate, dates, dollar amounts, whatever might be appropriate. In this case, St. Bernard Home and Garden is committed to helping others in need. Our focus this year and for the foreseeable future is to support those people who need jobs or homes due to the current economic situation. Notice no negative language here. Didn't say recession. Didn't say jobless or homeless or anything like that. Right? Now, the bad news. Therefore, our budgeted charitable contributions are going to the local food bank and homeless shelter and a select number of other nonprofit organizations that specifically assist people looking for jobs. This is the bad news. What does this tell the reader? It tells the reader, we can't give you any money because all of our charitable money is going to these other places with this specific focus. Okay? Can't help you with a Help Your Neighbor Day, right? Okay? Now the compromise. Several of our employees have said they want to support the Help Out Day event by donating a day's labor to assist neighbors with yard work, home repairs, and other tasks. Here's the compromise. Instead of us giving you money, here's what we can do. And then clarify for the reader how to approach this. Please provide us with the date, time, and location of the event so we can let our employees know. Then add the closing, off topic, future looking, goodwill, no reminder of the bad news. We wish you continued success in your efforts to help our neighbors. Not anything specific about the Help Out Day event. Please keep us informed of future projects where more of our employees might be able to provide their expertise. Okay? And then, of course, you have your signature block. These basic principles apply when refusing requests and complaints, delivering negative announcements to employees and customers. Even when using the direct strategy, writing to your boss or superior, the basic guidelines apply. Give clear reasons with details and avoid negative language. The only difference is that we put the main point first. Pay attention to word choice. Avoid obvious negative words. Not, no, cannot, regret, inconvenience, disappointed, and the like. You can think of others. Avoid words with negative connotations, such as however or but. Think about it. If you have just explained something in positive or neutral language and then say, however, you have just signaled to your audience that negative news is coming. Let's look at a quick example. Go back into the Chapter 7 Lecture Notes Material section. Click on the item that says Fun Bad News Doc. Take a moment to read this. We're going to assume that everything is formatted correctly. Are you daft or something? Do you guys know what daft means? Stupid, right? How's that for an opening? What makes you think we have the time or the patience to deal with 23 little brats at our busiest time of the day? Really? How is this for a buffer? What do you think? Hopefully you said, that's horrible. Now some explanation. I think it's great, here's some positive stuff, right? That the kids, by the way, kids, not a good word, it's slang. Technically, it refers to baby goats. I think it's great the kids are learning about nutrition, but the last thing I need is some old broad slipping on a cherry tomato due to the kids' nimble hand control of the salad tongs. Old broad? Wow. Your idea about putting on more salad bar attendants is completely out of the question. What I recommend is that you bring the kids by around 10 a.m. and I'll have Mario put together some PBJs. Do you know what those are? Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches? For the little whippersnappers. Now, mind you, this is a letter from the Salad Haven restaurant. Mr. Pearson wants to bring his Jack and Jill preschool students to learn about health and nutrition. And Mario's going to make them some PB&Js? Wow. You did have one great idea, though. And that was when you said the kids will probably go home and nag their parents into bringing the whole family dinner. Why? Big checks is what we like at the Salad Haven. Yeah, don't worry about the bad grammar. Look at the purpose. So don't hesitate to call so we can make arrangements. Do you think that Mr. Pearson is going to call to make arrangements? If you think that, never mind. Notice there is a revised version. Read it. You'll see a huge difference. Okay? Now, let's look at your writing assignment. Back here in course content, learning module 3, week 4, go down to chapter 7, negative message assignment. You'll see the due date. Open the document. Wait for the document to open. And you'll see that it is structured very much, well, exactly like the assignment sheet for the positive message, a brief description. Then again, you have 4 choices. You'll see what type of message it is, the case number, the format I want you to use regardless of what the textbook says. And it tells you what the topic is, just so you know you're looking at the correct assignment. Okay? If you choose a case other than one of these 4, that's an automatic 0. If you choose one of these but completely change the facts and the scenario so that it doesn't even sound like the same thing, it's an automatic 0. Okay? Once you've selected your case, write your rough draft, and then you will conduct peer evaluation using your peer evaluation teams in Blackboard, just as you did for the positive message assignment. Make sure you pay attention to the due dates for completing the peer evaluation. Make sure you participate, because failure to participate in peer evaluation is a penalty. Make sure you submit your documents, all of your documents. By the deadline. And remember, you have to use Word format. If it is in any other format, I cannot grade it. And then finally, you see here how you will be graded. Content, organization. Correctness refers to grammar and mechanics, punctuation, spelling, sentence structure, things like that. Format and completeness. Did you submit all of the documents? If you have any questions, send me an email. That's it for Chapter 7.